Rise and shine, Rwanda. It's Monday, the 14th of December.
Good mornings, just after 7 o'clock in the morning, and you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Ivan Magwene.
And me, Yvette Shimbusho.
Over the next hour, we'll bring you all the latest news, sports, and business headlines from here in Rwanda and around the world. Now, people, it's Monday, fresh minds, of course.
Yes.
And, of course, Yvette, what do you have for us in business?
First of all, brand new week. Happy New Week, guys.
Thank
you guys ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Great. So today on business, we have the Northern Corridor. We're going to talk about it, and we have a new member joining us. I'll tell you who later.
All right. Moses, what do you have for us in sports?
There's more drama in Manchester United dressing room, as Manchester United lost twice in a week after being beaten by Bournemouth 2-1. A lot of drama, more pressure on Luis van Gaal, and more to talk about. I'll tell you more in details how it happened.
And of course, indeed, today we're not, of course, with our colleague Sherry.
Yes, Sherry is not with us.
All right, but I hope tomorrow you'll be joining us as we're doing the show.
Yes, and we have something for lifestyle, actually, but it's going to be a surprise.
All right, there you go again. Well, all that and more still to come, but first, Rise and Shine, story of the day. Rwanda Initiative for Sustainable Development shared the plans and strategy of the Securing Land Rights Phase 2 to solicit the input of various stakeholders and also as an opportunity to share the project with the stakeholders for ownership, sustainability, coordination, and collaboration. We're there to bring you the entire event. Let's take a look. Rwanda Initiative for Sustainable Development shared the plans and strategy of Securing Land Rights Phase 2. The stakeholders meeting brought different groups to share the project for ownership, sustainability, and collaboration. Speaking at the event, Mrs. Anna Kairaba, the director of Rwanda Initiative for Sustainable Development, stated that Phase 2 of the Securing Land Rights builds on achievements and challenges Phase 1.
We said that you are referring to informal. They can't use any informal law, but they use the informal skills to mediate that integrity, the culture. That's where the mediation comes in. You don't have to be educated to mediate. So it's a mixture, and that's the difference between the abunzi and the formal court. Because the formal court will follow the laws, will follow these big books. Right? They were trained, educated, they are paid for that. Abunzi, that's why they are not paid. They don't have to read. I like what the Minister of Justice says. Please don't use these laws on abunzi. I don't want to overburden abunzi. Don't ask them. If they are not able to resolve something, an issue, through mediation, through the understanding of issue, like in a family, then you call march.
Also speaking at the meeting was Dr. Emmanuel Nkurunziza, Director General of Rwanda Natural Resources Authority, who commended the long-term partnership with different stakeholders, including RISD, who have worked with the Ministry of Land since 1999 at the time of developing the land policy.
Thank you very much. I think I just have to state that RISD, as one of the main NGOs in the land subsector, has been our partner for many years. So it's not just the phase 1 of this particular project, but there are different areas we've worked with them. But specifically on phase 1, RISD was involved in following up land disputes that mainly arose or were left behind after the land registration program that we were responsible for. So their task was to pilot in a number of sectors mechanisms of helping Abunzis resolve some of these residual land disputes. At the time, the scale was very small. They were working in these same 10 districts, but covering one sector. But really the achievements were very commendable because they were able to raise the capacity of the Abunzis and help them clear some of the outstanding backlogs of land disputes. So which is why we're happy to support their proposal to scale it up and cover the sectors they were not able to do in the first phase.
Phase 1, we had some expected results that we agreed with our beneficiaries and our donors, and we were supposed to do 3 things. One was about documenting the pending cases during the land tenure regularization, and this was done. The other one was to strengthen the capacity of Abunzi and the local leaders who deal with these issues, and this was done in the 5 sectors where we work very successfully. The third one was about creating awareness within the community itself to appreciate the process of mediation, and so that they also can play a role in that. And I think at the end of this phase 1, it came out clearly that community members are also Abunzi, they can also do mediation, and neighbors can do mediation. So I would say that these 3 objectives were well achieved.
According to Rwanda Initiative for Sustainable Development, Phase 2 of securing land rights will build on Phase 1, mainly focusing on documentation and monitoring backlogs related to land, among others. Ivan Magwene, Rise and Shine Rwanda.
So you attended the event about the land rights.
Yes.
So could you tell us just a little bit about what took place?
Yes. As I earlier said in the introduction of the whole VT, as actually this is the land rights phase 2, which means there was phase 1.
Yes.
So as we're there, we had different discussions, because this was an event organized by the Rwanda Initiative for Sustainable Development with its stakeholders, which include the Rwanda Natural Resources Authority, and then also the Ministry of Justice. Because first of all, these same stakeholders are working together with the main, I forgot actually the main theme of which was, land reforms that are, going to be sustainable to reduce poverty and make sure that we have food security. But the main focus, I think, was now on trying to see how best we're going to work in the next few years to secure the phase 2. Part of what I saw what the Rwanda Initiative for Sustainable Development has been doing is actually more on the solving conflicts first. What we see is that, of course, with land comes conflict, especially now that we see land is a very scarce resource. So that means there's normally these different conflicts taking place. And one of the ways that the Rwanda Initiative for Sustainable Development has used is to use Abunzi. Abunzi, these are locally, local kind of ways in order to solve conflicts, especially without people taking these cases to courts, which again solves the number of courts that go out there in the courts, and also that solves the number of cases that go. And you know how expensive really these trials can be. So one of the ways they have used are the Abunzi, and the Abunzi have really done a great job in solving these conflicts, land conflicts especially. So now the question still remains on how best can we come as stakeholders, as people collaborating together to make sure that indeed land is fully utilized, but again, as it is fully utilized, it becomes as one of the ways to reduce poverty and also, make sure that we have security in the country in the near future.
Yeah.
Yes.
So could you just name some of the stakeholders?
Well, some of the stakeholders, include, of course, the Ministry of Justice.
Yes.
Also, it includes the Rwanda, the NRA. It includes also different stakeholders, for example, we saw the Rwanda Institute for Sustainable Development. So different stakeholders come together, because with land,
is there a representative for the people?
For the people?
Yes.
The government is a representative.
Yes, no, definitely. Yes. But since land, for example, let's say it's within a certain estate or a certain place, and somebody owns land, and let's say maybe it was not rightfully theirs. Do we have somebody that actually represents them?
No, well, I can't say that we have somebody specifically that represents them, but in these cases, normally I think where you have issues with land rights, I think the right way to go for is the Ministry of Justice.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Of course, business news is coming up next with our very own Yvette Shumbu Show.
It's unbelievable, but what you see is what you pay.
Business stories making headlines today. The formal entry of Ethiopia into the Northern Corridor Integration Projects Initiative is likely to reshape the regional economy and politics, creating a new trading bloc. Ethiopia announced it had applied to join Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan and Uganda in the initiative that is slowly transforming into more than just an infrastructure-oriented group during the 12th Head of State meeting in Kigali. Ethiopian Foreign Minister Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus said that his country submitted a letter to join the initiative after being an observer for 6 years. Started by Presidents Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda and Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, the initiative developed as a way to improve trade between the three countries. More farmers will be able to access funding from KCB Bank Rwanda following the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the lender, the Rwanda Grain and Cereal Corporation, and also the East African Grains Council. The deal between the three entities seeks to make it easier for grain farmers working with the RGCC to get agro-finance from KCB to support their agri-business projects. Maurice Tertich mentioned KCB Rwanda. The deal was signed event was witnessed by the regional representative in the grain value chain from Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania. Rwanda's efforts to generate electricity from methane gas in Lake Kivu are starting to yield results, with the installed capacity set to increase to 186 megawatts this month when 25 megawatts is added to the national grid. The first phase of the Kivu power plant, which is at the pilot stage, has already added 22 megawatts to the grid as part of the 25 megawatts it is to generate in the first phase before embarking on the remaining 75 megawatts to make it 100 megawatts. And now Symbion Power Lake Kivu Limited, an American company, signed a contract to generate 55 megawatts. Symbion is the second independent power producer to invest in the methane-to-power plant after Kivu signed a concession. You're now up to date with today's business headlines. Sports news coming in just a minute with Moses Bidikunzira.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Time now for your sports news. I am Moses Bidikunzira. Starting with local handball. Police Nairobi Water clinched regional handball titles. Rwanda Police Handball Club men and Kenya's Nairobi Water women have won the 2015 East and Central Africa Handball Federation tournament, which concluded on Friday at Kimisagara Youth Sports Center. Rwanda's Police Handball Club claimed the title after finishing with 4 points and scored 16 goals, followed by Kenya's Black Mamba 1 point and a deficit of 7 goals. Meanwhile, defending champions Nairobi Waters detained the women's clone after finishing top with 4 points and a huge total of 31 goals. Rwanda's Ecole Secondaire Mukingi took second spot with 2 points and a deficit of 13 goals. Next year's edition will be staged in Nairobi, Kenya. Now on to European football. The misery on Louis van Gaal and Manchester United continued on Saturday as they lost 2-1 to Bournemouth. Manchester United lost ground at the top of the table as their former striker Joshua King scored the winner in Bournemouth 2-1 triumph. Bournemouth are up to 14th in the Premier League on the back of successive victories in the in the other matches. Manchester City won 2-1 to Swansea. Crystal Palace beat 1-0 Southampton. Elsewhere, Barcelona surrendered their 2-goal lead as they drew 2-2 with Deportivo La Corona. In Bundesliga, hat-trick hero Chicharito helped Bayern Leverkusen thrash 5-0 Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Bayern Munich thrashed Ingolstadt 2-0. And onto the UEFA Euro 2016 draw. England to face Wales, Slovakia, and Russia in Group B stage in a draw that took place in Paris on Saturday. England will face Wales at Euro 2016 in one of the most hotly anticipated matches in recent history. The game pits Wales stars Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey against England's Wayne Rooney and Raheem Sterling, in what promises to be a classic match between the two home nations. Republic of Ireland will put in a group of death with Belgium, Sweden, and Italy in Group E, while Northern Ireland were drawn alongside World Cup winners Germany, Poland, and Ukraine in Group C. This year's tournament is the largest European championship ever with 24 teams.
Now, of course, Moses, I know everyone, this is something that everyone was waiting for. The Euro draws, of course, on Saturday.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't a surprise, as many people have been saying that England is going to, play well. Now people are looking to see, Rooney versus
Gareth Bale.
Gareth Bale. Well, and I caught one of the, of course, Roy Hodgson, the England manager. I feel good about it. There was always a very good chance we would meet one of the home nations. Wales are very organized. They have a strong spirit and a good spine. But before even we go on to the England and the Wales game, because this is not just, this is the second biggest competition worldwide after the World Cup. Just tell me, how did you see the draws?
Actually, the draw was very interesting. As you can see, Trezeguet, the gentleman who won, David Trezeguet, who scored the winning goal for France in 2000 when they won the Euro. The last Euro they won 2000. He was the one who was actually pulling the seeds and the teams to be drawn, and he drew England. And Trezeguet in the first group, actually, let me wrap up about the groups. France is drawn in Group A as the host, France, Albania, Switzerland, and Romania. And Group B sees England, Wales, Slovakia, and Russia. While Group C sees Germany, which are the world champions, and Ukraine, Poland, and Northern Ireland. And we can see the Group D, we see defending champion Spain, and Czech Republic, Turkey, and Croatia. And then Group E, we see Belgium, Sweden, Italy, and Ireland. And then Group F, which is the last group, we see Portugal, Iceland, Australia, and Hungary.
Some of the groups that I'm looking forward to is Group E.
Yes.
Because I can't wait to see, because Belgium have been doing a good job in Europe, so I can't wait to see what they've been doing. And it's a death one for at least teams like Ireland, and because it's Italy, Sweden, and those are very good performing teams. But of course, the main focus, of course, it's always the English that normally do their football in a good way.
Absolutely.
Media has put their attention. It's England versus Wales, the game.
Yeah, England is qualified in Euro after winning all the 10 games in their group stage. So they've never lost any game, they've never drew any game. So they won all their 10 games in the group stages. And Wales are qualifying after more than 40 years without qualifying. And their star talisman, Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, they've been orchestrating all their way through to the European most prestigious tournament in the history of Europe. And it's going to be a very close context game. We've had Coleman, the coach of Wales national team, saying that this is the game we all wanted to see, because it's, there are nations which are very close. Most of their players are playing in England and Balkans Premier League, Ramsey to North, and there's Coleman, there's Gareth Bale, who switched from England to Spain. The Rico de Blake, actually the most expensive player in the world. It's going to be a very contested game, and for England specifically, this is the only England team which doesn't have a star. More Euros, we used to see Frank Lampard shining. We used to see Steven Gerrard. We used to see Rooney at his peak. In his peak of his career. But this time Rooney is not, and he's the captain of the team, he's not performing well as everyone would expect it. That's why even Manchester United is struggling one side. And again, we see young guys like Sterling, we see young guys like Ross Barkley, John Stones, but we don't. England team doesn't have that leadership. They don't have that, someone who takes responsibility.
There's the moving factor.
Because like when you see Wales, when there is a need of a goal, we look for Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey to do the magic, and they do deliver. We've seen Gareth Bale destroying teams in group stages. So England this time around, as you even see what Aaron Shearer said, I doubt how they will progress in Euro. But again, we see defending champion, which is Spain. They've tried. Now they went from the transition period when they were relying only on Xavi and Iniesta. But this time around, they have young guys like Malco Icardi, and other young players. And Germany, of course. So I'm looking for Germany to be probably the winner this time around.
Of course, a lot of drama coming, of course. Thank you, Moses, for that kind of analysis. A lot of drama is coming up, and we can't wait to see what happens in the Euro, of course, 2016.
Yeah.
Well, all that and more still to come, but first we look at international and local stories.
It's unbelievable, but what you see is what you pay.
Let's take a look now at news-making headlines here in Rwanda and around the world.
The First Lady Jeannette Kagame on Friday evening called on Rwandan youth to strive for excellency, for this would inspire Rwanda's development aspirations. Mrs. Kagame was speaking at the 5th edition of Celebrating Young Rwandan Achievers held this year in conjunction with the Youth Connect Champions at Serena, Kigali. The event was aimed at rewarding individuals, companies and organizations that have intentionally steered their activities, focus, resources and determination towards positively impacting the lives of the youth.
The Deputy Speaker of the Lower Chamber of Parliament, Abbas Mukama, has said that the 7 days were enough to explain the clauses that are going to be amended in the Constitution ahead of the referendum on December 18th. He added that petitions started coming in almost 6 months ago, and for the citizen, this is a wait that is well overdue. He further said that if it was a request by the executive, things would have been different, but with the people's will, that's where all the constitutional power comes from.
And in regional news, after attacks on army installations, eyewitnesses accuse security forces of rounding up and killing men in Bujumbura. At least 87 people were found dead in Burundi's capital Bujumbura on Saturday, a day after the government said an unidentified group carried out coordinated attacks on 3 military installations. Burundian Army spokesman Colonel Gaspari Baratuza said 8 security officers were among those killed during and after Friday's attacks.
And in international news, U.S. President Barack Obama said the climate deal reached in Paris is the best chance we have to save the one planet we have. China, the world's biggest polluter, also hailed the deal, but some campaigners said that it did not go far enough to protect the planet. Aims to curb the warning to less than 2 degrees Celsius. Nearly 200 countries took part in tense negotiations in the French capital over the 2 weeks, striking the first deal to commit all nations to cut emissions. The agreement, which was partly legally binding and partly voluntary, will come into being in 2020.
All right, this is a story today that is going to be done by our very own Yvette Shumbusho. We take a look at what's hot right now in a daily debate section, Hot Topics. We'll be right back.
It's unbelievable, but what you see is what you pay.
Welcome back and on to Lifestyle with me, Yvette Shibusho, just stepping in for Sherry Wase. And today on Lifestyle, we're going to be talking about how art can actually be able to help us advocate for a stop in gender-based violence. I met up with Jason Coder, who is a cultural envoy who was brought in by the U.S. Embassy. And we just talk about how we can be able to bring artists together to be able to make portraits and be able to influence people so we can be able to stop gender-based violence. Take a look. Hey. Welcome back to the show, and joining me today is Jason Coder. So we know that you are a filmmaker, a producer, yes, a script writer, and a composer. Is there anything I've left out?
An actor.
Actor, and cultural envoy.
And cultural envoy.
Okay, perfect. And so now we know that you've traveled all the way from Nairobi to come and conduct a workshop. So this is creating art for positive social change, yes? Okay, great.
Yes, exactly.
And the workshop is themed One Voice, from peace in the home to peace in the world.
That's right.
And so you're advocating for the stop of gender-based violence.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So we're on the same page on this.
You got it all perfectly.
So before I even say any more, I would like to first welcome you on the show.
Thank
It's
you.
very good to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. So for somebody that does not really understand, for the sake of those who don't understand what a cultural envoy is, could you kindly just explain to us?
Sure. Well, I was brought here on behalf of the American Embassy here in Kigali. And essentially, I mean, a cultural envoy is someone who is brought in to do a cultural project, you know, to communicate something through culture. And this is actually the second time that I've done a similar project in Rwanda. I was actually here as well with the embassy a year ago, doing a project as well, an art painting workshop. The theme a year ago was about democracy. So this year we really wanted to focus on GBV, on gender-based violence, and especially on creating a dialogue around it, because I think we all acknowledge that, I mean, GBV is a huge problem everywhere. It's a huge problem in America, it's a huge problem in Kenya, and it's obviously a problem in Rwanda as well. And I think the idea was that if people are open about it, that is the first step to enacting positive change.
Okay.
And that's one of the things we wanted to do here, is to say to guys, hey, this is a problem, but it's not going to go away unless we acknowledge it and we talk about it. And that, again, the same is true in my country, and I think, you know, most places in the world.
Okay. So can you tell us just a little bit about the workshop that you're
Yes.
conducting?
So I was lucky enough to be paired up with the master Rwandan artist Epa Binamungu, who has the most beautiful studio gallery out in Masaka that is just mind-blowing, and everyone should go and visit it if you haven't been out there yet. So we worked together for this workshop, and working with a lot of the top young professional Rwandan artists. I would say most of them in their early 20s, but already quite accomplished. And
Both male and female?
yes, both male and female, which was of course very important for the workshop. And I taught them to essentially do the kind of technique that I do in my own visual art. I don't know if we said that at the beginning. I'm also a visual artist. Did you say that?
No, we did not.
Okay, that's actually my background.
Okay.
Before I got into filmmaking, I was actually a painter for
Okay.
20 years, and a professor at times. So I learned from my time in Africa to use natural materials as a way of painting. So using things like earth and wood ash and sand, and here we were using sorghum, farine de blé, you know, we're just anything you can get your hands on that's essentially free and sustainable. So that was the difference in this workshop. It wasn't just that we were going and painting as we normally do, we were using those types of materials within a painting as well. So the paintings that they created, yes, they were on the theme of GBV, but they were also, just the way they looked visually, they were quite different than the normal paintings that they made.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So now that we're focusing on art, and even on my research on you, your focus is usually art. And you know, making sure that people understand the importance of art in education,
Yes.
in treating the environment well, and also, of course, gender equality.
Yes.
So why art? What is the essence about, what is so important about art, and why didn't you use something like baking or sewing in order to get your message across?
Yeah. I think, you know, what I found from this workshop and last year and the other work I've done as a cultural envoy, art is a great way to communicate to the masses. And I think that artists are given a little extra freedom in a way that other people in a society don't necessarily have. People say, oh yeah, it's, you know, it's the artists. Let them speak their mind. So I think it's a really great forum in which to reach people with messages. And that can be done through painting, as we did. It can be done through music, of course. I mean, musicians are possibly the most loved artists around the world right now. And so if a musician makes a song that has a message, that's going to really reach people as well. We should, I think, encourage musicians out there. You guys should get a little more socially conscious, those of you who are not, because they're really the superstars of today.
No, definitely.
So, but art is also a great way to do that. And we found that in these workshops. Like just last night, we had the third exhibition that we held of this workshop, which was in Huye. So we were at the university there.
So, from your view, in your opinion, how can we come together as a nation and the world in general in order to stop or at least put a stop to this the gender-based violence?
Yeah. Well, as you said, the title of the show is the first part of it is one voice.
Yes.
And that idea is something that I've been thinking about for a long time because we've had some very horrible experiences with GBV in Kenya. And the idea behind one voice is that in order for us to succeed as a society in terms of gender equality, the men are going to have to be included in that solution.
Yes.
It's not enough to just have women become empowered on their own, but the men stay sort of where they are in the past. They have to come with the women as we move forward, as we evolve as a society, and thus speak with one voice.
Yes.
So I think my answer would be two parts. One is that we have to change men, is really because men are the one ultimately that are oppressing women.
Yes.
You know,
At least they're the ones. The most cases are men oppressing women.
yeah. I mean,
Because we have some cases where women also.
we have some, and I mean, yes, women are powerful. We all fear them as men, but they're not. I mean, let's be honest, 99.9% of the time.
Yes.
So we really have to, I think, educate men. We have to convince them that, that woman that you are mistreating now, if you do that to her, a man is going to do that to your daughter. And do you want to see your daughter beaten and mistreated by a man? No, of course you don't. Do you want to see your mother mistreated? No. And I think, women are 50% of our society. They're in charge of our families. As we say, all life passes through them. So I don't think there's a greater thing that we can do for our society than to empower our women and stop disempowering them. So let's keep up the fight.
Yes, definitely. Is this your last day?
Yes, I go back tomorrow to Kenya.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
And now, they always say, of course, behind a good, picture, there's always 1,000 words.
Yes.
And what a good way, of course, to use art, to stop and make awareness of gender-based violence. Tell me a little bit about the whole idea.
Well, art speaks. Just by drawing, you can be able to say, like you said, 1,000 words. And Jason Coder is a cultural envoy. So he came in, brought by the U.S. Embassy, in order so that we can advocate for a stop in gender-based violence. So he went to Huye, actually. His last trip was in Huye. And I don't remember exactly the other districts, but he mentions them in the shoot. And he visited different districts and he worked with artists. And the last district he was in Butare in Huye. And they were given a chance to show what gender-based violence meant to them. And there's this one artist who drew a face of the lady and then is it put a lock on her mouth? Just shows you how we don't have a voice. I mean, we're being mistreated and we don't have a voice. And we need to be able to stop that. And so I sat down with him, as you've seen, and we talked a little bit about the art, and we talked about the essence of art, and be able to communicate and put across this message of stopping gender-based violence. And he told me a bit of, you know, himself and how he thinks art is the best form of communication when it comes to such issues, and how, of course, he's an advocate to advocate of stopping gender-based violence.
Now, as a person moving on, of course, displaying a very important message. How did he? How was the whole experience for him? Did people attend and, you know, look at the galleries?
Definitely. I mean, there was a lot, especially in Huye, because of the university students. They all came in. They were very inspired, and actually, they were impressed. You know, this is not something that is openly communicated or openly spoken about in Rwanda. You know, when somebody beats you in your own home, you keep it to yourself. Even in our culture, we don't really talk much of things in the home, you know. So it was inspiring to them, and he was very impressed with attendance, and a lot of people came, and they were very interested in, you know, how art can be such a good platform, a good tool in order to communicate gender-based violence. And they touched on gender-based violence, of course, and what it meant, and how we can stop it, and how men need to be involved in the process of being able to stop gender-based violence, because they begin it, so they might as well contribute to ending it.
Of course.
Yes.
It's a he for she.
Yes.
And she for he.
And she for he.
All right.
All right, thank you. Okay, there's still more to come, and we take a look at what's hot right now in our daily debate section, Hot Topics. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and it's that Hot Topics time again. And as always, the Rise and Shine Rwanda team have been out and about gathering everything you need to know about what's happening here and abroad, from what's trending on Twitter to the debates in your local cafe. So we've got it for you right here, right now. So recently we have been actually experiencing a blackout. Actually, it happened recently, and from Friday night all the way to Saturday around evening, actually afternoon, evening, we were not able to have access to electricity. And this did not just go on in Kigali, but we had it in other different districts. So we can start by actually discussing what happened. I mean, I've never experienced a blackout for that long.
Yes.
And then to make it worse, I've never experienced it where it's all over the place. I mean, you want to go to your friend's house, maybe it's you who's having the problem, maybe you didn't pay for cash power or anything, but then instead it's everybody in Kigali and other different districts.
Yeah, well, starting with that, of course, this, I think, has been the biggest blackout in modern Rwanda.
Yes, actually the longest.
Absolutely, yeah.
The longest blackout.
Currently, I've been trying to see different people and, you know, getting different views. Well, this same issue, of course, affected a lot of businesses.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Trust me, people who are in the dairy industry, people who are in the beauty industry, with dealing with, you know, salons and everything. All these people had no work. So most people during those days have been using, you know, they were using generators. I mean, this covered almost the entire country, because according to REG, only 3 districts in the country had power.
Which
so
ones were those?
Those included Karongi,
Nyamasheke,
Yes.
and Rusizi.
those were the only districts with the power this whole weekend almost. So this was, of course, a very big issue. They say it was because of a technical issue that happened with one of their plants. I think one in Mukungwa and Rusizi one and everything. But, well, again, there were lots of questions to ask Reg, and I hope we could have maybe the general director to ask him if there are even any chances that we could always have a backup, because these were very annoying incidences, because a lot of
very irritating.
The country was in
unsettling.
darkness for almost 2 days, and of course, we need to have him around the studio and talk about this. But for me, I think this is a very big issue that, of course, needs to be addressed in another matter of way.
Yeah, definitely.
To me, it's one thing. First thing first, we need to look at the business, because not only the beauty business, not only other business, but every business in Rwanda was affected. Because imagine using electricity. Look, we are in the media. Now imagine using a generator for 2 days. how much money do you use in a generator? And you paid your electricity. So it's really a big problem in telecommunication companies, in any business that really needs electricity, because Rwanda needs electricity in any type of business you do. And homes, there is, I mean, it was tough. People lost a lot of money, of course, and I hope there's a way that REG is going to talk with everyone who was involved, because all Rwandans were affected by this. So probably REG will have a way to talk with people on how to address this issue, so it does not happen next in the future. And again, people, you know, when you look at how we've been experiencing the lack of water and electricity, we go back and ask what has gone wrong. You know,
Yes.
that's why it's very important. It's to have one of the director of REG in the studio to address this issue, how it happened, what went wrong, and how to assure Rwandans that this will never happen again.
Yes.
Or if it happens, then it's just on a minimum risk.
Yes, and remember, this happens at a moment where REG has, of course, added at least some, it has added the value on the megawatts. So, you know, more prices are shooting up on electricity. This happens at that moment. So people at this moment are asking themselves, well, could there be any other plans for a backup or what? But part of what the REG the general director has been saying is, you know, to work on different plans. They're trying to construct more plants that are coming out. There was a rehabilitation on one plant. So they're trying to see if these issues can, you know, happen. Thank God that actually, because I was actually thinking, imagine if students were still in schools because they're in holidays. But this, of course, affected lots of businesses. And of course, in the professional world, as I always say, there are no excuses, especially
No,
for the
definitely.
electricity.
They shouldn't even be.
To make things
you
worse,
know.
there's no electricity and water.
And the worst part of it is that at the end of the month, or whenever you pay your water bill, they include that day. And you're thinking, I did not use water that day. You know, I had to go and fetch. And God knows where you even fetched from. You know, and so it's very unfortunate. But hopefully they'll start dealing with it and we won't have so many complaints and blackouts and water shortages. My goodness.
Absolutely.
All right. So now let's actually take it back, actually not bring it back home because Sherry always says that, but actually let us take it out there and go into Kenya. A group of young Kenyans have filmed a movie about life in the slums using a mobile phone. The film features actors who are literally known in Kenya and have scripts in slang called sheng, and the soundtrack has Kenyan hip-hop. What do you think about that? First of all, think about this. It's in a slum, yes, and Kenya has so many slums, and Kibera is definitely the biggest, I think even in the region. Yes, definitely in the region.
Kibera is the biggest.
Yes, the largest slum in the region. And then they're actually filming using a smartphone. I'm not sure which one it was. Hopefully it was Samsung. But, and then also they're using sheng. And sheng is not spoken by many people, but it is understood by a couple. So maybe we can have your thoughts on that, first of all.
First thing first is I'm impressed by young guys and girls who just step up and decide that we want to show what life we are experiencing in our area. And the good thing is the message. They want to send a message out there to tell people how things are going. Because music is the biggest message, the biggest tool you can use to send a message out there. And I hope it would be much better if they used English or Kiswahili. Because that's a language that most people could understand, including ourselves.
Exactly.
Because the Chang is, I don't know what.
Sheng.
Sheng, I don't know. Sorry, Sheng, I don't know what.
Chinese.
Changa is something whole different.
Yeah, Sheng, I don't know how it's, because I can't understand exactly. I need a translation to understand what they said. But if it could be in English or Kiswahili, it would be much beautiful, and everyone could understand it. And but it was, the good message is there. And again, the fact they use a smartphone shows that with little
Well,
materials.
I was hoping it was a smartphone, but I think it is.
Yeah, with the phone, it shows that with little materials, you can still send a message out there and people can hear what you want to express.
Definitely, and it's encouraging. I mean, they did not need a whole, camera. They did not need a Nikon or camera or lighting or sound. They simply just used the phone. And one thing I think is very important, actually, what I agree with you is that I wish it was in English or Kiswahili. But remember, these are people that probably did not even go to school or even dropped out of school. So sheng is the only thing probably they know, So in that area, I don't know, we can just leave it up to them. But what are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I think the main focus moves around what kind of genre of music they use. Hip hop from the days of course, Machiavelli, and the days of B.I.G. I mean, hip hop has always been one of the ways to to represent the struggle of people.
Yes.
And the mere fact that these people from the slums, were able to put their message in the hip hop, I think people would be, very many young people out there with the same struggle. Because one thing I've realized is that a lot of people, especially people that are dealing with the everyday struggle, really get so much into, love with the hip-hop genre because, it speaks their story.
Yeah.
It's, topples up their story and the struggle every day. And the mere fact that these guys, used hip-hop, and we've seen a lot of Rwandan artists also use hip-hop. We've seen the popular Rwandan artists like J. Paul. They talk about the lifestyle, the kind of lifestyle they lived in or they live in, the everyday struggle. I mean, using Sheng, and maybe Sheng was the main language that many people understand around the slums. So,
but it also it shows, I mean, you can't expect them to be speaking English and they're in the slum when they should be speaking Sheng. It's them.
Because even here, most people
Sheng
that are doing
hip
hop, that are doing it, they're doing it in Kinyarwanda. And,
yes.
And most people that are in love with the music are Kinyarwanda. So people need to connect with the music, especially with the struggles and the story. And, hip hop speaks it out for all the people. And, it has always been the best way to express the struggle.
And I hope it gets recognition out there because there was this one movie, Nairobi Half-Life, and it talked about the struggle within the slums in Kenya. And it was a very well-known movie out in Europe and other places in the world. And it was very impressive. And it's good. It's a good initiative that they have taken.
Absolutely.
All right. So more hot topics tomorrow. Stay tuned. Don't forget, we love to hear your thoughts, comments, and feedback on what we're talking about here on Rise and Shine Rwanda. Tweet us at Rise and Shine RW. Like us on Facebook and send us your ideas for programs. Check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda YouTube page where you can catch all the shows and reports we do. Finally, find us on Instagram, Rise and Shine RW. We love to see your pictures. Or check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda website, www.riseandshinerwanda.com. Well, that is all the time we have for you today, but we'll still be here until Friday. But we do love to hear your feedback and to let us know if you have any ideas for programs. You've been watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Yvette Shumbusho.
And of course, me, Ivan Magwene. We'll be here same time, same place tomorrow. Do join us then. But for now, from the both of us and the rest of the Rise and Shine team, have a very good day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.